Welcome to Shaka Extra Time, a show that comes to you every week. I am Paul Ndiho. Joining me for the last time here on Shaka Extra Time is my colleague Shaka Ssali, who has decided that this is it. He's leaving, retiring, and to be honest with you, I'm going to try as much as possible not to be emotional, but it is what it is. Hello, Shaka.
Hello, ndugu Paul.
How are you?
I have to say that I remain simple, easy, and as some of my fans have suggested before, an awesome most son of Mother Africa.
To be honest with you, Shaka, I'm going to miss this interaction. We've been doing this for the last 8 years, thanks to the management of VOA, our producer Zoe, Leodaki, the colleagues who filled in for you. It's been a long ride. We had a great time together, Shaka.
I think you are right, and to be very honest with you, when you talk about you are about to miss me, I can assure you that the feeling is mutual. I would also like to join you in thanking some of those most important partners in this broadcasting struggle. But I think, first and foremost, we have to give credit to our mentor, television mentor, the late Bob Long. Without Bob Long, as you know, this would never have happened. And of course, you can't possibly stop at Bob Long. You would also have to come immediately to Paul Ndiho and Zoe Laudaki, the producer of Straight Talk Africa, and of course Shaka Extra Time, who I affectionately sometimes refer to as the goddess of life itself. And she responds by suggesting that, guess what? I am the seeker of the truth. So I would also like, of course, as you said, to thank some of those colleagues, ndugu Peter Kelote, ndugu Jackson Muvunganyi, and ndugu Vincent Macaulay, the man that I used to refer to as the Matoke man from Kisland in Kenya, for having been kind enough, generous enough, and professionally enough to have at some point sat in for me. It is going to be a little bit nostalgic, ndugu Paul, but such is life.
To echo some of your sentiments, you talked about some of our colleagues, especially Peter Cloti, Jackson Mvunganyi, Vincent Makori. These guys were very instrumental in helping us push Shaka Extra Time. Whenever you are out, they would fill in for you. And not only just fill in for you, but they were great analysts as far as I'm concerned. And to some extent, they would also fill in for me whenever I was away on assignment.
Yes, definitely. We have to give them kudos. They were partners in this project. I think that's probably the best way to sum it all, really. They were very good and legitimate partners.
You brought up a very important point there. You talked about Bob Long. I remember the days when we would interact with him. He first saw us go at it at a lunch. Then he's like, I think you guys can make a great team together. I want to figure out. He basically started talking to us about coming up with an idea that has evolved over the years. We started off with Africology, then we came to What Shaka Says, that later became Shaka Extra Time. what an incredible journey we've had over the last couple of years, Shaka.
You know, to be very honest with you, when you look at the evidence via social media, one would probably quickly remember some of the most important words of wisdom from a British writer and a playwright, William Shakespeare, when he used three Latin words in his Julius Caesar. You know, he talked about veni, vidi,
Vindi,
vici.
Vici,
I came,
I
I
saw,
saw,
I
I
conquered.
conquered.
Very good.
But you know what? The struggle continues. And because of that, I agree with Madiba probably a little bit more than Shakespeare. Madiba Nelson Mandela, who once said in his long, long walk to freedom, that when he looked at the struggle, it is true that he was able to climb a giant hill, but he realized very, very soon, he discovered that even after you reach the summit of a giant hill, there were, in fact, more hills to climb because the struggle for freedom is really a work in progress. And others would say, the soul continues. But the consolation, of course, being that at the end of the day, victory is certain.
Our producer, Zoe made sure that this show went on air without fail. She continuously tried to make it better, and of course, working with Larry Gomez, the graphics person who designed the entire set of Shaka Extra Time. And of course, our bosses, Sonia Lawrence Green and Keith Wallace, our executive producer. I don't think we could have done this thing for 8 years if those people had not given it their blessing, given us some feedback. And over the years, they really made Shaka Extra Time into a legitimate television program.
I think you're right. There's no question that those people you mentioned, especially, in fact, Zoe Laudaki, Keith Wallace, Sonia Lawrence, and Paul Diho, without you guys, Shaka Extra Time would probably never have seen life, would never have been, probably would never have been translated into a real life show. But then again, we also cannot forget perhaps the most important component of the struggle, and that's the audience. Without the audience, which really kept, giving us more reason for being on air, we probably wouldn't be here today, Paul. Wouldn't you agree?
I absolutely. Speaking about the audience, how about we give a shout out to our affiliate stations across Africa who carried this show, at least for the last 6 or 7 years. It's been great working with our partners across in Africa who reached out to Voice of America after they had watched us several times on YouTube. By the way, let me mention that we started this thing before Facebook Live. Initially, when we started out, even YouTube was not going live. So would like edit stuff, put it on YouTube. Then from there, YouTube started going live, Facebook started going live, Twitter started going live. So, but along the way, we had support from our audience, which grew organically to the extent that sometimes the numbers would shoot through the roof every time we did a show live.
Yes, indeed. And frankly, I would like to take this opportunity, therefore, to thank the audience, for supporting us during the last 8 years. Because, as I said, without them, we probably wouldn't be here. And I have to say that I have reached a point where I felt like I had really, really made some contribution, however modest. I felt that everything that has a beginning has a middle and an end tied into each other. That is the reason why I reached at a point. It was not a very easy decision for me, especially hosting a very successful enterprise like Shaka Extra Time. But I reached a point where I said, you know what? All of us, whether we like it or not, we have an expiration date. And it was not easy for me to reach that conclusion because I still have the energy, I still have the intellectual curiosity. I would have loved to stay on air and interact with my audience. But you know, I looked at my journey and I felt like there were really some other interesting things to do. And so I felt that on my own volition, I was throwing in the towel. And the reason for that really is there is a saying that knowing when, why, and how to walk away from an enterprise, however successful, that is wisdom. And that being able to, in fact, do it and hand over the baton to a younger generation takes soul searching and courage. But that in the end, finally, Ndugu Paul, walking away from it all with your head raised high, that has to be dignity. And I mean that. And to be very honest with you, I benefited. I did not reinvent or invent the wheel. I benefited from those other giants. Very few of them, though, that have actually done that before. And the key for me was, as I said some time back, the Brazilian international soccer or football icon, Pelé, who basically retired at the top of his game after winning for his country the third World Cup of what is considered to be the beautiful game. I feel like I have also been playing in a sort of beautiful game. And I feel like this is the time for me to walk away in order for others, the younger generation, to basically take up what really is legitimately their turn and their role.
You know, Shaka, you just touched a nerve. I can remember as a young kid listening to the Voice of America. Then I would go to the US library in Kampala to watch Africa Journal at the time, where you would come on as an analyst. You inspired me, but you even inspired me more when you came to speak to students of mass communication and journalism at Makerere University in November 1997. And I happened to be roaming around campus, and somebody told me that you are actually speaking there. I went there. When you came on stage, you are introduced. You talked for about 2 hours. Talked about your experience in the army, what you did as a young man, how you came to America, how you went to school, inspiring so many of us. And I remember one of the things that you said, if anybody wanted to like really climb on your shoulders, that they were more than welcome to use you as an example, or to climb on your shoulders and see a little bit far. And the other thing that you also that challenged my curiosity was when you said that if anybody ever happened to be walking downtown DC or is in Washington DC, to give you a call. So after the talk, a lot of people lined up to come and exchange social amenities with you, interact with you. You were handing out business cards, and you gave me a business card. I think that I didn't know that that business card would become a visa. Basically, I
You
used.
know, you talk about that business card becoming a visa, but probably in your context, sincerely, it became a promissory note that you
Absolutely.
eventually cashed.
Absolutely. And for a kid who had just grown up watching you, listening to you, courtesy of my dad, by the way, my dad, who was a fan of yours and still is, said, you know what, you should check out this guy. Uh,
Captain Leo.
Absolutely. And we've built a relationship that has lasted over 20 years. You have been a mentor, a friend, a professional colleague, a personal colleague. You've helped me overcome so much, whether professionally or on my personal life. And for that, I just wanted to say how grateful I am to have met you, to have known you, and to have worked with you for the last 16 years, Shaka.
Well, I have to say that it has indeed been an incredible journey, but it has been even more incredible, especially when you joined the journey and we started walking together and we started struggling together and we started comparing notes and started talking to our people on the continent to assume their legitimate rights of being citizens with responsibility and stopping to be subjects, really, and make sure that they begin making their leaders accountable to them.
Shaka, I've had the privilege of traveling with you across the continent, and over the years, I saw firsthand how a lot of young people see you as this force of nature that has an ability to inspire millions. People would come to you and they just want to see Shaka, they want to interact with Shaka, they want to know a thing or two about Shaka. What made you connect with these ordinary people?
I think simply because in Lugupor, I also find myself in the same club like them, despite the fact that some people see me as a star in Washington. At heart, I remain a very ordinary, simple kid from Cavalry. A kid from Cavalry that was once, in fact, an obscure kid from Cavalry who walked to Washington, D.C., the de facto political capital of the world, and started, in fact, hosting a program originating from Washington. But that never really changed me much. I essentially looked at it as an ordinary kid from Cavalry who had had an extraordinary opportunity to interact with extraordinary circumstances. As a matter of fact, I recall several years ago when you and I went to a book promotion by the Seychelles founding president, the late Sir James Mancham. I remember him photographing a copy of his memoirs for me and said to my friend Shaka, son of Africa, citizen of the world. You know, a kid that was once an obscure kid from Kabale has since been transformed into, some would say, an African or global household name. But I say that in fact, I have had the dubious privilege of becoming an international, an international public sort of property. I am hoping that by leaving this privilege, by leaving this opportunity, that is a privilege to serve my audience, I'll find some freedom and hopefully some privacy where I no longer will be an international property for most, for those who basically watch me either on Straight Talk Africa or Shaka Extra Time. But for that, I will say I shall always have a huge, profound gratitude to the American people for having granted me the opportunity to utilize their uniquely wonderful educational and media infrastructure so that eventually, for a kid that was once suffering from what I characterize as intellectual kwashako, I became liberated. And I'm obviously one of those that find it very easy to interact with the audience on various issues.
Since I've known you, you affectionately refer to yourself as the kid from Kabale. There are so many kids out there in Kabale who want to walk, to put on your shoes and walk through your journey. What does it take to walk through your shoes, or what do they need to do at least to see a little bit far?
What they need to do, first of all, and I've said this often, is first and foremost, they have to be able to identify what they want. Once you are able to identify what you want, then you can look for the appropriate tools that you could, in fact, use to navigate and negotiate your way to your desired destination. And you could do that by getting an opportunity to stepping on my shoulders. Because once you do that, Ndugu Paul, you are guaranteed to see a little bit further than I. You also probably along the way have to become a very humble person, a humble person that is willing to learn, a humble person that is intellectually curious. I was lucky that I found some essentially intellectual angels, really. And one of those people that especially suggested to me to focus on Africa like a laser beam was my friend, Professor Fred Kakumba in Albany, New York. He helped me so that I could, in fact, integrate in this society and helped me to succeed at my undergraduate studies when I was at the State University of New York in Albany in the 1970s. Along the way, there have been a lot of other good Samaritans. The late, for example, Dr. Andrew Rutakome Kaira, a man who eventually became a Ugandan politician, but unfortunately was assassinated before he could make his major political contributions. This is a man, Ndugu Paul, when he listened to my story, he just held my hand, took me to the Dean of International Students at the State University of New York, took me to a gentleman by the name Dr. Paul Ward. When he explained to Dr. Paul Ward about my situation, Dr. Paul Ward immediately said, "We shall admit you to the university. I shall give you $600 towards purchase of your books each semester. And I shall give you a tuition waiver so that you do not need to pay tuition. You will just go to class. All you have to do, you look for some kind of job, HAO, so that you could pay for your room and board." Those are the sort of people I run into, Ndugu.
I want to give you an opportunity to say a few inspiring words at your audience, at your fans who have watched you over the years, listened to you on radio, watched you on television over the years.
I wish I was not going to walk away because of what you have done for me over the years. I have had a very loyal audience before. With that loyal audience, there is no doubt that I would not have remained on air. And for that, I would like to thank them from the deepest, better part of my cavalry heart and soul. But as the American great General MacArthur once said during the Second World War campaign, "I shall return."
On a programming note, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the fans who have supported us over the years, our affiliate stations who have carried the show for the last 8 years. You guys have been incredible. On a personal note, I wanted to say that, to borrow your words, Shaka, from the deepest, better part of my Rukunjiri heart, I want to say thank you. You've been instrumental in my professional development, personal development. You've mentored me as a reporter. You've guided me over the years. And we've also become good friends. I affectionately refer to you as my elder brother, and in fact people who have met us together, they think that you are my elder brother. So my kids call you Uncle Shaka, which is I don't want to cry, but I just wanted to say that without you I would not have been able to become maybe the kind of journalist that I am. I remember one of the things that you told me when I first met you and when we started working together. You said, you know what, if you want to succeed in this business, there are certain things that you're going to stay away from. You said, don't be greedy, try to be the best that you can be. Through your guidance, I've been able to do all sorts of things. We've done a lot of great reporting together, traveled the continent together, and to that end, I really want to say that I will miss you. And I look forward to engaging you in your free time. Now that you're a retired man, you have all the time, and let's keep this going. Thank you so much, Shaka.
Thank you too. More power to you, Ndugu Paul. And I'd like to tell you that, yes, I would like to warn you that even though I am retiring, I am never going to allow to be tired. And on that, as I often say, on closing the Straight Talk Africa editions, get better, not bitter. And please, please, let's keep the African hope alive.
Thank you so much, Shaka. It's been a great pleasure working with you, and thank you for being my friend.